Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Marc Lore.
Marc Lore, yeah, the guy who built and sold like two companies.
Not just sold, but like for billions of dollars. I mean,
It's insane.
billions with a B, folks.
Yeah. And now he's got this food delivery thing, right?
Wonder, yeah.
Wonder.
Yeah.
Which he's aiming for a $40 billion IPO.
$40 billion.
It's nuts.
Okay, we got to unpack that.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into the dollars and cents, I think what's really fascinating about Marc Lore is not just his business ventures, but like his management philosophy. Like, how does this guy do it?
Right.
So that's what we're really going to kind of dig into today. And I think one of the most interesting places to start is with this whole idea of founder mode.
Founder modes. Yeah, yeah.
Right. It's like this kind of image of the CEO being super hands-on in every single aspect of the business.
Right.
You know, it's almost like it's kind of glorified in like the movies and stuff.
Yeah, like the Steve Jobs kind of model.
Right.
Totally. And Marc Lore has a really different perspective.
He does. He actually disagrees with that whole approach.
Really?
Yeah. He believes that the CEO's primary focus should be on really three core areas: vision, capital, and people.
Vision, capital, people, those are pretty big areas.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, they really are the foundational elements, right? Like,
I can see that.
you need the vision to set the direction.
Yeah.
You need the capital to fuel the growth.
Mm-hmm.
And you need the right people to execute on that vision. And so for Lore, everything kind of flows from those three things.
Okay, so that's his theory. But, like, what does it actually look like in practice? Like, how does he actually, like, operationalize that?
So this is where it gets really interesting. He has this system. He has this weekly leadership meeting.
Okay.
And this meeting is entirely devoted to vision, capital, and people. For 2 hours.
Wow.
Every single week. They hammer away at the company's vision, the strategy, the organizational structure, the capital plan, like how they're going to allocate their resources. They talk about performance management systems, compensation systems, like all the stuff that's critical to building a successful company.
So it's a lot more strategic than, like, you know, just kind of like diving into the day-to-day kind of minutia.
Exactly. It's about setting the big picture.
Yeah.
Right. Making sure everyone on the leadership team is deeply aligned on the core vision and strategy. And then from there, he empowers them to operate independently within that framework. You know?
Okay.
He's not micromanaging every little detail. He's trusting his team to make decisions and execute within that shared understanding of where they're headed and why.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Because, I mean, you can't be everywhere at once, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Especially if you're trying to build, like, billion-dollar companies. But, you know, speaking of teams and people, Lore is kind of notorious for this intense focus on hiring what he calls, like, rock stars.
Oh, yeah. He's obsessed with finding A players.
Superstars.
Right.
And I think, you know, there's a lot of us who, like, believe in the power of talent, right?
Absolutely.
But Lore's approach is really interesting, and it's actually evolved over time.
Yeah, it has.
You know, he used to think that he could spot talent, like, in a 1-hour interview.
Right. The classic, like, gut feeling.
Yeah, like you just kind of meet somebody and you're like,
Oh, I know.
this person's amazing.
Yeah. You get that spark.
Right, and after hiring, like, thousands of people,
Totally.
Lore realized that it wasn't that simple.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not always that easy.
yeah, the gut feeling isn't always right.
Sometimes it fools you.
So he started looking for patterns.
Yeah.
And he started noticing these really specific things on the resumes
Yeah.
of the people who actually turned out to be superstars.
Right. The people who consistently exceeded expectations, who really lived up to that rock star label.
So what are we looking for here? What are these, like, secret ingredients on a superstar resume?
Okay, so he found 3 key indicators. Right. So, number 1, multiple promotions within a company. They're not just kind of staying stagnant, they're moving up the ladder.
Okay.
Number 2, they're sticking around long enough to actually earn those promotions.
Yeah.
You know,
So it's not just, like, job hopping.
exactly. They're actually putting in the time and the work. And number 3, when they do switch companies, it's a significant upward move, not a lateral or a downward transition.
So it's like a clear track record.
Consistent upward growth. They're ambitious.
Yeah.
They're driven. And they're not settling for the status quo.
Okay. So that's how he spots them.
Yeah.
But how does he keep them? Because, I mean, these top performers, they've got options, right?
Absolutely. They're in high demand.
So what's Lore's strategy for making sure these rock stars actually stick around?
Well, First and foremost, he's willing to pay top dollar.
Okay, so.
He recognizes that these people are worth it,
Right.
but it's not just about the money. He's very intentional about creating a performance management system that truly motivates and guides them. So it's not just about setting goals and metrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's about providing them with the support, the resources, the feedback they need to really excel and reach their full potential.
So it's about creating an environment where these rock stars can actually shine.
Exactly.
And do you think that kind of ties into his views on risk? Because he's also got some pretty interesting ideas about risk.
Absolutely. And it's a really important connection there.
Okay.
Because Lore argues that people often underestimate the risk of maintaining the status quo while overestimating the risk of change.
That's an interesting way to think about it, because I think a lot of people think about risk as the potential for things to go wrong, not the potential for things to stay the same.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Like our brains are kind of wired to avoid risk. But Lore's point is that sometimes the biggest risk is actually not taking any risks at all. And to kind of illustrate this point, he uses this really powerful analogy.
Yeah.
He talks about, imagine if you were told you have a life-threatening illness.
Oh, wow.
Right. And you have a limited amount of time to live.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you're way more likely to take risks.
Right.
You might be more willing to try that experimental treatment, to book that trip around the world,
Yeah.
to finally pursue that passion you've always put off.
Because suddenly the risk of doing nothing
Yeah.
outweighs the risk of actually trying something.
Exactly. The stakes are higher. And so you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone to embrace the unknown. But when things are comfortable, when we feel safe and secure, we tend to cling to what we know.
Right.
Even if it's not really serving us.
Yeah. It's like we get so attached to that comfort, we don't want to let go.
We get complacent.
Yeah.
We get stuck in a rut. And Lore believes that this fear of change can be fatal in the startup world.
So in the startup world, playing it safe is actually the riskiest move you can make.
According to Lore, absolutely.
Interesting. Because in a fast-paced environment, I mean, things are changing all the time, right?
Okay.
So you have to be adaptable.
Yeah.
You have to be able to pivot. And sometimes that means embracing risk head on.
Exactly.
Wow. So it sounds like Lore's entire philosophy kind of revolves around this idea of calculated risk-taking.
Yeah, it's definitely a central theme.
But how does he actually apply this to his businesses? Like, what does that look like in the real world?
Well, for example, think about his decision to launch Wonder, right?
Yeah.
Right in the middle of a pandemic.
Okay. Yeah, so that's not exactly what most people would consider playing it safe.
No.
Right? Like,
Yeah, not at all.
the world is, like, in lockdown, you know?
Yeah, and the food delivery space was already so crowded, right?
Super competitive.
Like, you got all these established players, so why would you jump into that market at that particular time?
Right, like, what was he thinking?
So Lore recognized that the pandemic had fundamentally changed consumer behavior.
Okay.
People were relying on delivery services more than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't really go anywhere.
Exactly. Restaurants were closed, people were stuck at home. And so he saw this opportunity to create a truly differentiated experience.
Okay, so he wasn't just jumping on the delivery bandwagon, he was actually trying to, like, innovate within it.
Yeah, he saw a gap in the market.
Okay.
And he went for it.
So what was his, like, differentiation?
So he focused on creating a higher-end experience.
Okay.
Okay. Partnering with top chefs and restaurants to offer a truly elevated menu.
Interesting.
And what made it really unique was that the food was prepared in mobile kitchens.
Oh, wow.
Right in your neighborhood.
Oh, it's like...
So it's like having a 5-star restaurant come to you.
Without the 5-star prices, hopefully.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a premium service.
Okay.
But the quality is there.
Okay.
The ingredients are top-notch. And the experience is really designed to be, a step above your typical delivery.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense now.
Yeah.
He wasn't just, like, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
He was actually thinking strategically about, like, what's the future of this industry going to look like?
Exactly. He was betting on the fact that even in uncertain times, people still crave quality, and they're willing to pay for it.
Okay.
And also that the convenience factor of delivery,
Right.
it's not going away.
It's here to stay.
Even as the world opens back up.
So he was really betting on this shift,
Yeah.
this like fundamental shift in consumer behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that $40 billion valuation suggests he might be right.
I mean, it's a bold bet,
Yeah.
but the early signs are promising.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
It's definitely a story to watch.
It is. It is. It's interesting. This whole risk-taking philosophy seems to permeate like every aspect of his approach.
Yeah.
From his hiring practices to his strategic decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's wired differently
I think he is.
than most of us.
He has a different mindset.
Yeah, like how do you become that?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, right? I think it's partly, his personality.
Mm-hmm.
He's naturally ambitious. He's driven.
Right.
He's not afraid to take risks.
Okay.
But I also think it's a conscious choice.
Okay.
He's actively cultivated this mindset over time.
So it's like, it's not just he was born this way.
Right.
It's also something he's worked on.
He's developed it.
Okay.
He's honed it.
Interesting.
And he's constantly challenging himself to push beyond his comfort zone.
So it's like, it's nature and nurture.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Kind of working together.
Right.
Yeah, but speaking of going against the grain and kind of challenging conventional wisdom, we were talking about his approach to hiring. Right. And those rock star resumes that he's so obsessed with.
Yeah. Those 3 indicators.
Right. It's not just about finding talent. It's about finding like a very specific type of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. He's looking for those patterns.
Okay.
Remember, multiple promotions.
Yeah.
Staying at a company long enough to actually earn those promotions and making upward moves when they switch companies.
Right. So it's not just about what they've done. It's about how they've done it. Like what's their track record?
Yeah. What's the trajectory of their career?
Yeah.
Are they consistently striving for more?
Oh, okay. So he's looking for evidence of ambition, of drive, of like a consistent upward like trajectory.
He wants people who are hungry to learn, to grow, to take on new challenges.
Right. They're not just like content to sit back.
No, they're not complacent.
Right.
They're always pushing themselves.
Okay. And is that something that you can teach?
That's a good question.
Or is that something that's like just kind of in you?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, some people are naturally more ambitious, more driven.
Right.
But I also think that it's a skill that can be developed.
Okay.
It's about setting goals, holding yourself accountable,
right,
and surrounding yourself with people who inspire you to be your best.
And it's that whole growth mindset thing we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. It's about believing that you can always learn, always improve.
Yeah, and that your potential is not fixed. Okay.
Mm.
But it makes you wonder, like, how does he actually create an environment where these really ambitious rock stars can actually thrive?
Well, he understands that attracting top talent is only half the battle.
Right. You got to keep them happy.
You got to create a culture that supports their growth.
Okay.
That fuels their ambition. And one of the ways he does that is through what he calls radical transparency.
Radical transparency.
Yeah. So at Wonder, he implemented an open salary policy.
Oh, wow.
Where everyone knows what everyone else is making.
Whoa.
Pretty radical, right?
That goes against the grain
You got him.
of like every company I've ever worked for.
Right. Most companies treat salary information like it's like top secret.
Yeah.
But Lore believes that secrecy breeds distrust and resentment.
Okay.
He wanted to create a culture of openness and fairness.
Right.
Where everyone understands how compensation is determined and feels valued for their contributions.
Okay. So it's about like building trust.
Yeah.
Right. And like fostering a sense of kind of like shared responsibility.
Exactly. It's about creating a level playing field.
Yeah.
Where everyone feels like they're part of the team.
Right.
And that their contributions are recognized and rewarded.
Okay. But I imagine that requires like a high level of trust.
Oh, absolutely.
From everyone involved.
Yeah, you got to have a culture of trust for this to work. Yeah. But when it does work, it can be incredibly powerful.
So it's radical transparency, empowering leadership, attracting and retaining top talent. It's all kind of connected.
It's all part of the same philosophy.
Okay. But there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't really talked about yet.
What's that?
And that's vision.
Yes.
Right? Like we talked about this 2-hour weekly leadership meeting where they hammer away at the company's vision.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to Lore?
Because for Lore, Vision is more than just a lofty goal or a catchy tagline.
Okay.
It's the guiding principle behind everything they do at Wonder.
It's like their North Star.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's what gives their work meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's what helps them make tough decisions
Right.
and stay focused on the bigger picture.
So it's not just about like making money.
No,
It's about,
no, it's about something more than that.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
about making a difference.
Right.
It's about creating something that has a lasting impact.
And he's not just talking about the company's vision.
No.
He believes that each individual should have their own personal vision as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What impact do you want to make on the world?
That's a big question.
It is.
And it makes me think about how often we get so caught up in the day-to-day grind.
The hustle, the busyness.
That we lose sight of our
Yeah.
own like aspirations.
Don't forget the dream.
Yeah, of our own North Star. But how do we apply this to our own lives?
That's a great question.
I mean, it's one thing to have a vision.
Right.
It's another thing to actually like bring it to life.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we bridge that gap?
Well, for Lore, it all starts with breaking that vision down
Okay.
into smaller, actionable steps.
So it's not just about the what, it's
Yeah.
about the how.
Exactly. You need a roadmap. You need a plan,
A plan of attack.
right, to turn that vision into something tangible.
Something real.
Yeah. And that plan, that roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
is probably going to involve taking some risks.
Okay, so we're back to risk.
Always back to risk.
Yeah, because, I mean, nothing worthwhile is ever easy, right?
Exactly. And Lore knows that. He embraces it. He sees risk as a necessary part of growth, of innovation.
Okay.
It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone,
Yeah,
experimenting,
right.
sometimes even failing,
But failing forward.
failing forward. Exactly.
Learning from it.
Yeah, and coming back stronger.
So it's like you're not afraid to fail.
No, you embrace it.
Okay.
You learn from it.
You know, this whole conversation has really got me thinking about my own status quo traps.
Oh, interesting.
You know, like those areas of my life where I'm kind of playing it safe.
Mm-hmm. We all have them.
Right. Maybe holding myself back from
Right.
truly pursuing what I want.
Right, because it's so easy to get comfortable, isn't it? To fall into those routines,
Yeah.
even if they're not really fulfilling us.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, it's human nature
It is.
to seek out comfort and security.
Yeah.
But sometimes those very things become like our biggest obstacles.
They can hold us back.
Yeah.
They can prevent us from taking those leaps of faith.
Right, from pursuing those dreams that really light us up.
Mm.
So what's the antidote?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, like how do we break free?
Well, I think it starts with awareness,
Okay.
right? Recognizing those areas where we're clinging to the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not serving us.
Right. And then what?
And then, like Lore, we need to shift our perspective on risk. Instead of seeing it as something to be feared,
Mm-hmm.
we can start to see it as an opportunity for growth, for adventure,
Yeah.
for creating a life that's truly aligned with our values.
It's about like flipping the script.
It's flipping the script.
Yeah. Challenging those limiting beliefs.
Those voices in our head
Yeah. Yeah.
that tell us to play it safe, to stay small.
Right. And maybe, just maybe, embracing a little bit of that Marc Lore.
Oh, yeah.
Go big or go home energy.
A little bit of that hustle,
Right. Right.
that ambition.
Okay. I like that.
So here's a question for you.
Okay.
What's the worst that could happen? Seriously, ask yourself that.
Yeah.
What's the absolute worst case scenario?
Okay.
If you take that risk, if you pursue that passion, if you make that change,
Okay.
and then weigh that against the potential upside.
The what if it works?
The what if it works? What if you achieve those dreams?
Yeah.
What if you create something meaningful? What if you make a real impact?
Suddenly that risk doesn't seem so scary.
Not so scary anymore.
No.
Right.
All about perspective.
Okay, about perspective.
I love that.
And even if things don't go exactly as planned, even if you encounter setbacks,
Yeah.
failures along the way,
Right. Which, let's be real, are going to happen.
they happen to everyone.
Yeah.
But the very act of taking that risk, of putting yourself out there, that's incredibly valuable in itself.
Because you learn from it.
You learn, you grow,
You grow from it.
and you build resilience.
Right. So you're better equipped for the next challenge.
Exactly.
I like it. So as we wrap up this deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of Marc Lore,
The world of Marc Lore, the master of risk.
I wanna leave everyone with this.
Oh.
Don't let the fear of risk hold you back
Yeah.
from creating a life that truly lights you up.
Yes.
Take inspiration from his journey, his willingness to challenge the status quo,
Absolutely.
his relentless pursuit of his vision.
And remember, you don't have to build a billion-dollar company
Right.
to live a fulfilling and impactful life.
It's about finding what matters to you, setting your own ambitious goals,
Yes.
and then taking those calculated risks.
Calculated. That's key.
Right, to make them happen.
Make it happen.
So what calculated risks are you going to take?
What status quo are you going to break free from?
The choice is yours.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those boundaries.